Welcome back. Now that we kind of have a basic understanding of what this thing called the Bible is, I want to just go over a basic theory on how to study the Bible. This Bible could be really confusing, so I want to break it down into a really simple process that helps you take a passage of Scripture, a section, and really put it in the context to understand what it means. And what we're trying to do, what's the big picture of what we're trying to do when we study Scripture? It's really this, okay? If we're saying that the Bible was written on purpose by God using authors in their context and in their time, then it's really our goal in studying the passage of Scripture to understand what that author meant when they wrote the words down that we're actually reading. Okay, this is what we call the author's intended meaning. And when we study Scripture, that's what we want to try to figure out. What is it that Matthew was really meaning when he wrote the Beatitudes? What was it that Luke was writing when he was writing Acts and the journeys of Paul, whatever that might be? Okay. Once we understand what the author meant, that's what we can then apply to our lives. We have to be really careful not to jump to application right away, and that's what's going to happen in your life groups. People are going to start right away, well, I think that this passage means to me. Okay, well, what this means to me in my world is, and we have to be careful of that because there's all kinds of things that we could get from the Bible, but it's really what God inspired the original author to write in his intended meaning that we want to get at. And so to get at the author's intended meaning, we do what we call the inductive study method. And you've probably already heard it before. It's a really 3-step simple process. The first step is to observe. We want to observe what we're reading. What was said? What were the words? How were they ordered? What did the verse say? How does the verse connect to the next verse? How does paragraphs work together? Just actually doing like a good scientific study of what the words said. Okay? We're also looking for things like repeated words, familiar concepts, things that go, wow, I think I've read that somewhere else. The author probably wants you to understand that. So that's the first step. We're going to just observe and see what happens. The next step is called interpret or interpretation. And what we're doing is we're trying to interpret not what it means to me, but based on the words and my observation of what was said, what did it mean to the original author? And remember, the author was writing to somebody, to that original audience as well. And the final step in this method is the application, and that's what we really want, but it's the very final step. And it becomes a very easy step if you've done the hard work of the first 2 steps. And that's, how does this author's message, what does that mean to me today in my context? And what we do is we take it from what we call their town, which is when it was written back then, to our town. Okay. In the next section, we'll actually get into reading a passage in Scripture and starting to study it. Okay. Look forward to seeing you.